Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 15 of ParaTalk One-on-One. And my guest today is Mica B. Hi, Mica. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Good. This is like a subject that I've wanted to cover with an adult. I did this before my guest was very young, and I just like getting different perspectives. So let's start with, how did you realize, or when was it that you realized that there was something different about you?
Well, I would say that most of my childhood, I had experiences that I couldn't necessarily explain. But being so young, I didn't know how to communicate, and I didn't really have anyone to talk to about them. And
Mm-hmm.
then, so I just kind of pushed everything off to the side and went on with life, and different distractions would come along, and it would be so prominent or so clear that I was experiencing something.
Mm-hmm.
But when my grandpa passed away a couple of years ago, and I was going for a walk. This is like very typical story. I was walking down a dirt road. This is very Texas of me.
Right.
And I felt something pull my shirt, and I heard something say, "It's time." It shook me pretty good, to the point where I talked to my mom about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then my family is super Christian, and so we were kind of all feeling something that day, just with it being the day after my grandpa's funeral, and us kind of all calming down and fellowshipping with each other. And what we did as a family is we sat around and we prayed, and we sang praise and worship songs. And even in that moment, my son also had an experience that day that was pretty unexplainable. But being a Christian, I just kind of left it at that, as God reaching out to me. That was kind of always my go-to growing up in a very Christian home. But my 30th birthday was a year after that. And the year following my grandpa passing away was probably one of the most challenging years I've had. I know I was grieving, and that could probably explain a lot of the experiences I've had. But also, what I've learned is maybe I was a lot more sensitive during that time as well, more
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable. And I became very reclusive, very high anxiety, very emotional. I would cry and not really know why I was crying. I would, I never wanted to leave the house, because every time I would leave the house, I would feel everything. And I became just a hermit, just living
Right.
in my little shell of safety. And
Right.
so a whole year had passed of just kind of going through that. I started going to therapy. I thought something was wrong with me, and all the counseling sessions that I had, in the moment, they were really helpful. But as soon as I would get back in the car or go to a store or be back home, none of the therapy was really helping. And so my 30th birthday was a year later, and I went to New Orleans, and that was probably the moment where I was like, I need to talk to someone. I need to talk to someone else. This is getting too weird.
Right.
So, yeah.
So when you finally decided to reach out, you wrote WHPS,
Yes.
my team, seeking something. So what
Yes.
was your expectation? What did you expect from
Oh my
us?
God. I had no idea. I'm already pretty self-conscious person and insecure, so that was like super hard for me to reach out to total strangers and be like, "So, I heard this word empath. You got
Right.
anyone I can talk to about it?" Like, I remember being very awkward, and before I contacted you guys, I started researching other paranormal groups in
Uh-huh.
Houston, and I guess they didn't really appeal to me the way that yours did. And so, yeah, I don't really know what I was expecting. I just thought maybe there'd be another empath on the team that could give me some information and help me decide, am I crazy or am I actually having experiences that are legitimate? I felt like
Right.
if I knew, I feel like if someone told me, validated me one way or the other, then I could move on with my life and then maybe find out what's causing my experiences if it wasn't an empath thing. So,
Right. And I
yeah.
remember the long text messages of you trying to explain everything. And
Yes.
you finally ended up calling me. I think there was a trust thing there that you just wanted to feel comfortable and trust
Hmm.
that I wasn't going to say, you're nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And once you got to that point where you did trust me, I remember having a long conversation about everything that was going on with you. And we kind of worked through some of that stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and so the more that you opened up to me, the more I was able to help you here and there. So, have how has your life changed since then compared to what it was
Oh,
before?
well, to start, that first conversation with you was the first time I ever received validation for my experiences. And so I was scared to call you because I didn't want to waste your time. I'm always like so worried about like, am I wasting people's time? She's probably too busy. But yeah, I also did want to build like that level of trust. But I remember very early on in the conversation, I sent the long paragraph and then you were like, yeah, it sounds about right. I don't think you're
Yeah.
crazy at all. And I felt like electricity go through my body and I started crying because I was like, oh, someone heard me.
Yeah.
Someone hears me. And it was so wonderful. And since then, I think it's been a little over a year now because I
Right.
just turned 31 in January. And I think I contacted you probably very early February last year. So this
Mm.
past year it's been really nice. You've helped me regain control of the experiences that I was having. Now I can kind of take a step back and say, is what I'm feeling, is it coming from me or is it something else? And just asking myself that one question has been so healing because I'm not having as much anxiety. I'm not having as many panic attacks. Whenever I feel like something is trying to communicate with me, I'm not as scared as I used to be. I kind of,
Right.
you gave me
And
the
that was
advice
a
to just
big
be like,
thing. That was a
yeah.
big thing with her is that just being scared of receiving messages or picking up on stuff and the
Mm.
whole paranormal part of it. And I was like, girl, you got this. You
Yes.
got this.
Hmm. What was super revealing to me was you and I did an experiment. I think it was the very first time I went to your house,
Right.
and you had, was it the dowsing rods?
Right.
And you were like, "All right, let's just see how big your circle is." I'm like,
Bubble.
"Okay,
Yeah.
bubble. Let's do this." But like being able to physically see my bubble and the way that you showed me, I was like, oh my God. And then being able to make my bubble smaller and kind of create this shield of protection empowered me. And I started going back outside again and socializing again. And when I would start crying in my apartment, one time I called my neighbor because she was a really good friend of mine. And I'm like, are you okay? And then she was crying on the phone and she's like, how do you know? And I'm like, dude, I can feel I was about to say a bad word, sorry. I was like, I can feel your stuff and it's bothering me. So you're either gonna like talk to me about this and we're gonna work through it, or you need to stop because I am like having a very bad day now. We're really close, so we can talk to each other like that. But yeah, I
Right.
was really scared. I was really scared and really conflicted too, which I know we talked a lot about that as well. Just
Right.
being a Christian and learning about this other side of me and trying to figure out how the two can get along without guilt. It's been quite interesting. So
Yeah. And now I know that you went back to New Orleans.
they did.
So how is going back now different from when you went back or when you were there last time?
Oh, it's crazy. Okay, so the first time I went, I could not breathe. Like I went to New York a month before I went to New Orleans for the first
Uh-huh.
time, and there were spots of New York where both my son and and I think my son, I've never seen him behave so badly as he did at certain moments in New York City. But at the time, I didn't have this mindset of could it possibly be something else.
Right.
But I felt really alive and like I was thriving in New York, except for a few patches of areas, which was really strange to me to then go to New Orleans and feel the complete opposite. I couldn't breathe. I was having different pains in different points of my body in different areas. I couldn't sleep. I always felt like there was just crowds around me, even though obviously there are crowds in New Orleans, but it was a different kind of crowd. Like leaving New Orleans, it's like the veil between the living and the dead there is so thin. And I was just like walking like on that line the entire time. And
Right.
I was having yawning spells and headaches. And I felt like it was just crazy. And then the second time I went to New Orleans, I was more empowered. I wasn't afraid. And I already had knowledge of what I was getting myself into. And I felt great. There were moments where I had to kind of regroup with myself and make
Uh-huh.
my bubbles smaller, or maybe do a breathing exercise, or kind of just take in the moment that I was having and try to look at things around me and figure out, okay, what could be causing these weird feelings that I'm having? And what turns out, or how it turned out, is that I actually had a ton of fun doing that. So I was
Right.
less afraid. And I think my favorite place in New Orleans was the Pharmacy Museum.
Uh-huh.
Like it is a very old, everything in there is real, has been used. Think about just the craziest medical equipment you can think of. It's all there. And every inch of that place is just vibing with tons of different types of energy. There's an
Right.
area for like the gynecology department, and I cried in that area.
Oh,
There was
wow.
there was an old fashioned like birthing stool or birthing seat that a woman
Right.
would sit on to give birth, but she would sit upright like that. That I didn't even know what it was before I started crying, and then I started reading about it, and I was like, oh my god. Like I could
Right.
feel all of or what I believe were all of the just beautiful and terrifying and sometimes depressing feelings of like bearing children.
Right.
It was crazy, but
Like you
that
were
was a real.
picking the fact that you can pick up those experiences, those feelings that other people had.
Uh,
That's something that, I think it's beautiful. And like I said, and I've told you before, finding all this out, figuring out that it's not you, that you are actually feeling what someone else felt at some point. I
mhm.
mean, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Some people say, oh, no, 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 it's horrible. It can be a very difficult experience. Being around people who are pissed off, or just, I'm sorry to use the word, but just, assholes, or
Hmm.
people who are truly depressed. I mean, you start crying, getting upset, and you don't even know what the hell just happened, you know?
Yeah. Hmm.
But I am so glad that you were able to distinguish, these different feelings now, and you're growing so much, and I feel so happy. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, like you have been an amazing friend and mentor and just helping me or guide me through all this. I know I message her probably more than I should. Sometimes it's like 11 o'clock at night and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. But what is it? And then, you had been telling me to keep a journal for a very long
Right.
time. Well, I finally started keeping a journal, and I've decorated it, and it's been really cool to go back and read the different experiences that I've had, and then kind of see consistency
Uh-huh.
between the
Patterns. Yeah.
experiences. So like, okay, so if I'm having anxiety, which I am a highly anxious person already,
Right.
so it has taken time for me to learn how to learn if it's my anxiety or something else. And
Right.
so, but keeping the journal and seeing the days when I couldn't bring myself down, but then I practice, the different tools that you've given me, such as making my bubble smaller, telling things to go away. It's like when that erases my anxiety, then I know, like, okay, that wasn't me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like I said, I'm so proud. I mean, she went from being scared of just about everything
Yeah.
to actually asking me, can I go on an investigation with you?
Yes. So I'm a huge history person. I've
Right.
always been attracted to old buildings, historical buildings, or just old stories. And so in the past, even though I was attracted to that, I would go to those places and be scared. But I
Right.
still wanted to be there to learn about it. Well, now I feel super empowered. So now I kind of get to enjoy two things I really, really like, which is
Right.
like the pharmacy museum. Like I loved being there and learning about all the different equipment and the history of medicine and the stories of people attached to it, but also feeling it too. It felt like such a gift to be able
Right.
to feel what other people felt. And it's not always a good feeling, but like you've taught me, bad does not always mean, like a bad feeling does not always mean a bad thing. And
Right.
so yeah, so it's just been experience. I hope this is making sense.
Yeah, no, no, this is great.
Okay.
Now, I do want you to tell the story about when you visited the Holocaust Museum.
Oh
And
yeah.
the reason I bring this up is because, this is one of the few times that Micah contacted me while she was there and experiencing these things and kind of giving me this timeline of what is happening as she's going through. And here I'm trying to type it out and let her
Mm-hmm.
know, what I can. But it's such an interesting story. So would you mind sharing that?
No, I would love to share it. So obviously I knew going to Holocaust Museum, I think I was kind of anticipating that I might feel something, but I had about an hour or two to spare before I had to pick up my son from school, and I didn't have anyone to hang out with, and it was right down the street, and I hadn't been since it was renovated. So I was like, well, I'll just go check it out.
Hmm.
But there really, it was closing in an hour, so I didn't have a ton of time to really sit and read and absorb everything. So I was just kind of taking my time walking through the halls and just doing the best I can to absorb information. There's a point about like the second or third exhibit, you have to cross through one of the old train. What is it called? Uh, the the trains, the boxes on the train.
Okay.
Because in the Holocaust, they carried them and carried the Jews in the train to the camps. And the museum here in Houston has one of the trains that was used in Germany. They've painted over the paint, but there were parts of the train that were not covered in paint where you could still see the original wood. And
Right.
I wanted to, I took some time just sitting in there and closing my eyes and just kind of opening my bubble up to see if anything did want to communicate with me or allow me to feel its presence. And so I was touching the wood, and I did feel some things in there, but it wasn't enough to kind of keep me around. So I kept walking, and then you come to the very next section. There's a boat. And as I approached the boat, I felt a presence with me, and it felt like a little girl. Um, and I could feel her holding my hand. And I think this is at the time where I messaged you, where I'm like, okay, do you think it's possible that I could actually be having an experience right now? But yeah, I felt like she was holding my hand and guiding me through the next section, which turned out to be a section about the children of the Holocaust, which I didn't know
Right.
prior to going in there. It gives me goosebumps. But
Yeah.
it was like this little girl. I felt like it was a girl. I felt like She was very short, maybe 5 years old, and holding my hand. And there were people there, so I didn't want to feel crazy, but so I just kind of held my hand like this because I didn't want. I don't know. I felt like I should. And so
Right.
we're walking through that section. And then as I came to the end of the section, I felt like it was time to say bye. I didn't want, I don't know. I've heard things about children spirits and needing to be kind of careful because, I mean, I think what I've heard is that, you know, sometimes with a child spirit, you don't know if you're actually with a child or not. And so
Right.
I felt like I'm leaving this part of the museum. I should tell her bye. And it didn't feel negative. It felt beautiful and sweet and like she just wanted to let me know she was there. And so the funny thing is that this sounds really stupid, but I felt like giving her a hug. So I pretended to tie my shoes to let her hug me. And then I said, okay, bye. And then
No, it's not
I
stupid. I
left.
mean, I thought the whole experience was, I mean, this was like a wow moment for me
Yes.
to be on the other end and just having you explain this to me over the phone. Like, I felt like I was there with you
Yes.
and I could just kind of see you going through the motions in my own mind. And I was just thinking, oh my God, I'm so glad that you're open to having these experiences now
Mm-hmm.
and that you actually got to experience something like that. Because, I
Yes.
mean, in the state that you were a year ago, I think you would have just like hightailed it out of there, you
Oh,
know, and
yeah.
said, I don't know what this is gonna, you know.
Yeah.
But for you to open yourself up like that and to allow that to happen, I thought was a beautiful thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm so glad you shared that story because I think it's great.
It
Um,
it was a really great experience. I'm a very awkward person, and so I'm approaching this gift probably in the most awkward way possible, which is why I'm so glad I can talk. You know that you're there to talk me through everything. But I just kind of follow my heart and my gut. And I don't know, maybe the little girl needed to feel noticed, and maybe she did want to give me a hug, and that's why I felt led to get on her level. It was interesting, but after that moment, I kind of raced through the museum to my car because I needed to cry after that happened. And I
right.
was like, don't let anyone see you cry. Must leave.
Well, I think
But I'm
everybody
very
cries
thankful.
a little anyway because it's the Holocaust
That's
Museum.
true. Yeah,
So that wouldn't have shocked anybody.
you're
But
right.
I totally understand what you're talking about as far as the emotional side to that experience.
Hmm.
Um, Now let me ask you, I know you were seeing someone, I don't want to get all into this, at some point, and you were both kind of doing your own little investigating. How did that go? Everything go good with that?
Trying to think of what, well,
The house that you went into just to check it out, make sure everything was cool.
oh, yeah. Oh, we're still together. I love him.
Okay.
He's amazing. Yes. I think it was exactly what you said. Residual energy. So he had just moved into this new home. There were a lot of things that were left behind from the previous owner and their family because they didn't want to deal with it. And so when they
Right.
first moved in, he was having experiences all the way to the point where one time he was convinced that he heard a voice. And so
Right.
me, being who I am, came in there and did all my things. What I didn't know at the time, which you learn as you go, is I'm touching everything. I'm like, ooh, what's this? And then that night I could not sleep. It was like I think I he slept fine. I stayed awake all night because I felt like whoever's things I was touching, they were like, really, girl? Really? And after I left, things got a little bit worse, which I felt very bad about. But my boyfriend is super open to the experiences I'm going through and my beliefs
Right.
and how I feel, to the point where he will call me to ask me questions like, do you think this is anything I should worry about? Which has been really nice. But after a while, I think the experiences have gotten less and less and less. Oops.
Right. Okay, so everybody, I just took a little break. The Our session actually just came to a complete stop when she was talking. That's never happened to me.
Oh
And
no.
so I have no idea. I think it's you, Mica. You did it.
Sorry. Go
Uh,
away. Get out of here.
right. So you were talking about the house and how everything's gotten better.
Yeah,
So, or has,
over time, the experiences have gotten less and less. I think either it was new house jitters, residual energy, or he's gotten used to it and it's
well,
not
and
as.
also you had mentioned originally that when they first moved in, they were actually doing repairs and stuff, right? So they were kind of
Yeah,
storing it up anyway.
yeah. They're still doing repairs, and they probably will be doing repairs for the next year.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is his parents' house, and so he's living with them and helping them remodel it right now.
Right.
And yeah, so I have a feeling it's going to probably pick up. Like, I don't know,
Again.
like my gut tells me, yeah, because
Mm,
right now with the virus and everything, and I think before that it was something else. They slowed down on renovations. So they're just
right.
doing a little bit at a time. So I don't know. We'll see. But he's definitely less afraid now.
Good.
But yeah, I go to the house every now and then. I've spent the night a few times, and uh, I don't know. I think it's residual energy because it definitely feels like it's not, nothing is trying to specifically contact me, but it's like it's there, but
Right.
it's
You
not
can feel it.
communicating. Yeah. So,
Right. Right. So that's, I mean, that's great. There is nothing to
mhm.
worry about there, at least for now.
Yeah. But what's cool is over time, because he's not going to talk to his dad or his mom about this.
Right.
His sisters had a couple experiences when they visited, and then but he's found out over time that like his uncle had mentioned something his dad had said. So I think everyone in the family has kind of had
Oh,
an unexplainable experience, but they're not really talking about it. It's just kind of
right.
going away. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
that's normal. That's normal
Mhm.
for most people. They just kind of push it in the back, and hopefully there'll be no reason to bring it up again.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just people have to understand compared to what Michael was like last time. I mean, the very first time she contacted me, this is like a huge difference. And
Yes.
I mean, the confidence and just going out there, trying things out, learning about your experiences. I'm so glad you're journaling because that's so important.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're looking back now to see, okay, this is what happened. It's happening again. And now I have an answer that I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. It's weird though because I feel like I'll go through periods of time where I'm just on fire and I'm like boom, 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 feeling
Right.
things, and then a few weeks will pass nothing. Like right now, I'm going through a nothing thing, and I'm like,
Right.
it's.
Well, I mean,
I don't.
sometimes that could be good because, like,
Mhm.
during this time, now that we're going through this and everybody's kind of sheltering in place and stuff, staying at home, when you do go out, the energy is just like, so intense.
Yeah.
Um, and it's hard just to get through that. I'm just here for some milk and I just want to get out of here.
Yeah. Yes, it's
It,
like when I go to the grocery store, I'm just like, oh my God, everyone is so miserable. Like every aisle. And by the time I leave the store, I feel like I held my breath the whole time.
right,
That's like how bad I feel when I leave the store physically. And I'm just like, I have to come home and I have to take a shower because
right.
I don't know. I'm sure anyone can relate to what I'm saying, but extra yuck in stores right now. Just people's
It
moods.
is. It
Yeah.
is. And it
Head.
it's hard, like you pick up the emotions and the feelings and stuff. I just feel the energy,
Hmm.
and I don't like it. So I can't imagine what you pick up when you're there. So
I
yeah.
know.
Hopefully
Yeah.
you'll get through this.
Oh yeah. It's just this year has been really great. I've been more open. I've been talking about it more with people. And like with the grocery store, when I go, if I go with my boyfriend, I'm just like, man, people really just stink right now. And he's like, oh, really? And I'm like, I'm sorry. And like, we'll pass certain people and my head will hurt so bad. And it's
Right.
so cool to be able to talk to him about that. So it's been really nice not to feel so alone. In fact,
Right.
I didn't mention this, but when I was in New Orleans, we went on a ghost tour.
Uh-huh.
And didn't really feel anything. It was one of those follow the crowd. We didn't actually go in any buildings or anything.
Right.
And but after the ghost tour, the very last building was a story about a woman who was and this is so random off topic, but it was a story about a woman. She was like the other woman in this relationship, and
Right.
the guy who owned this building would not commit to marrying her even after his real wife died. And finally, he's like, "Oh, haha, funny joke. If you go spend the night on the roof, then I'll marry you," or something. He didn't think she would actually do it, but she did, and she ended up dying. And that was one of the stories.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'll give you links and stuff so you can read more about this. But everyone in my group, when we were it's such a sad story. I
Right.
felt I'm getting goosebumps right now. I felt like a wind, and it wasn't windy, and everyone in my group felt it. And the whole point of this is in New Orleans, we were sitting around the table with all of my friends, just talking about our experiences and me being able to talk about what I've been going through and how life changing it's been. Like I was for a little while I was suicidal because I was just like I can't. I actually when I came back from New York, I told you when I was in New York I felt like I was thriving. I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but when I got home from New York, it was the week following that I reached out to my friends and I was like, I'm having suicidal thoughts. And
Hmm.
that was terrifying. And
Right.
then I went to New Orleans and then I called you.
Right.
And so like
So
this was
the suicidal thoughts weren't enough. You had to make it worse by going to New Orleans.
I did, yeah. Well, because like it was the week following New York, so I thought,
Right.
I had I had done a little research, so I was like, well, maybe it's just, things I'm carrying with myself after being in such a vibrant place. I don't know. But after
Right.
that week passed, I felt fine again. It was like these spells of suicide and spells of depression and
Right.
spells of anxiety coming in waves. So,
And actually, I think you might have brought this up because I know I did tell you about some experiences that I had personally when I was going through this whole journey in the
mm-hmm,
beginning. And one of those things was the suicidal thoughts that were coming to my mind, the images that I was getting,
mm-hmm,
and it was terrifying to the point where I had to call on, my other teammates for help,
mm-hmm,
to remind me that these aren't your thoughts. This is someone else's
right.
thoughts. It's like being implanted into your brain. Um, and so, a lot of people, this is like, has to be like a totally different show, but it does happen. There are a lot of people like you who go through this, who have no idea that they have this gift. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has this,
Mm-hmm.
but I am so glad that you were one of the ones that was able to reach out and, ask for help when you
Mm-hmm.
did so you
Yeah.
can figure this out. Because, you are so special to me now. You're
Oh,
such a great friend. I'm going to start crying here in a minute.
me
I'm getting
too. Stop.
emotional. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm so glad that you found it in yourself to get
Mm-hmm.
help. Because like I said, there are a lot of people out there who go through these things. They have no idea. And, I I don't know. It's a blessing to me that you came into my life when you did,
Oh,
and I'm so glad that we've been able to remain friends since then, and I've been able to help you. You know, hey, even if it's not about the paranormal or about this, you could
yeah.
just yap at me about anything. I'll be there for you.
Mhm. It's been great, and I think for a very long time I had always been reaching out, whether it be the church or my family or Google. I've been searching for a long time,
Right,
and the doctor didn't help me. Therapy was only temporarily helpful, and this has been just learning how to take my own power back and be in control of myself and the area around me has been the best medicine. Because
right,
I'm not on any medication or anything on what I think could have been described as a mental illness. So
right,
it's just, I'm really thankful as well. And I'm really thankful I met you because I think that just reaching out in the dark for someone to talk to, I could have easily gotten in touch with the wrong person,
right,
someone who might have taken advantage of me or led me down like the opposite path. Because I do think with all of this, I think there is a capability of going in a very dark place.
right.
And so it's very nice to have you as a friend on so many levels, not just on the empath thing, because even when I'm having all my worry moments, like, oh my God, because I've had a lot of conflict being a Christian and exploring this and trying to
Right.
be there. Like you're always there and listening and discussing it with me, and you don't make me feel crazy for being conflicted or having so many questions. And so
Right.
because of that, I've been able to find a road that I'm comfortable with that still allows me to explore my gift, but also feel like I'm on the right path spiritually as well. So it's
Right.
been fun. So,
Well, thank you so much, Micah, for taking the time
yeah.
to talk to us about such personal things. But I think this helps others, with some maybe their experience something similar. And so thank you again for
Oh,
being on the show and talking to everybody. And I am so happy that you are in such a good place right now. I'm so happy for
oh,
you.
thank you. Thank you for having me. I feel very honored to be chatting with you. So I appreciate it.
And I guess that's it. You have a great rest of your day.
Okay.
And we will put link for the suicide hotline at the end of this one for anybody who might need someone to talk to. Thank
Yes.
you again, Micah, so much.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye.